If you stay until the end of this story, you might never look at ordinary people the same way again, and you'll understand how one desperate moment, one impossible choice, turned a struggling janitor into the only person a billionaire trusted with her life. Red Heart, if stories like this move you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe, because the next one might change you too. Marcus Reed never imagined his life would come down to the last dollar in his pocket and the last hour before daycare closed. At 36, he had already lived 3 lifetimes worth of loss. His wife, Elena, had died 3 years earlier from a sudden brain aneurysm, leaving him alone with their 4-year-old daughter, Lily, a tiny girl with wide brown eyes and a habit of holding his finger like it was the only safe thing in the world. Marcus worked nights as a janitor at St. Augustine Medical Center, one of the most prestigious private hospitals in the city. By day, he was a father, a cook, a storyteller, a monster chaser under the bed. By night, he scrubbed floors so clean they reflected the ceiling lights like mirrors. People rarely noticed him. Doctors walked past him mid-conversation. Visitors avoided eye contact. Security guards nodded politely but never asked his name. Invisible. That's what he was. Except to Lily. "Daddy, you're a superhero," she had told him one morning while he tied her shoelaces. He laughed. "Superheroes don't clean toilets." She shook her head very seriously. "They save people. You save me." That sentence kept him going on nights when his back ached so badly he had to lean on his mop to breathe. One stormy Thursday night, the hospital was unusually tense. Black SUVs lined the emergency entrance. Security was doubled. Staff whispered as they passed each other. Marcus overheard a nurse say, "She's the richest woman in the state." Another replied, "Private wing. Full lockdown." Marcus didn't care. Rich or poor, sickness smelled the same, antiseptic and fear. Around midnight, he was assigned to clean the restricted VIP corridor. A guard escorted him in after checking his ID twice. Inside, everything was eerily quiet. Plush carpets. Dim lights. Private nurses stationed like statues outside closed doors. As Marcus mopped near the last suite, he heard a faint sound. Not a voice. A choking noise. At first, he hesitated. He wasn't supposed to interfere. This was VIP territory, doctors only. Then he heard it again. A desperate, gasping struggle for air. His chest tightened. Elena had made a similar sound the night she collapsed. Marcus dropped the mop and pushed open the door. Inside, a woman in her early 40s lay half-propped on a hospital bed. Her skin had turned a terrifying shade of gray. Her eyes were wide with panic. Her hands clawed weakly at her throat. No nurse. No doctor. No alarm. Just silence. Marcus froze for half a second, long enough to realize she was dying. He had taken a basic CPR course years ago for Lily's daycare requirements. He barely remembered it. But he knew one thing: oxygen had to reach her brain. He rushed forward. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" No response, only choking. Her oxygen mask had slipped off and tangled with the 4-line. Her airway sounded blocked, like something was lodged or swelling shut. He slammed the emergency button on the wall. Nothing. No one came. Panic surged through him, but Lily's voice echoed in his head, "You saved me." Marcus did the only thing he could think of. He tilted her head back, pinched her nose, and pressed his mouth to hers. A kiss, not romantic, not gentle, but urgent, desperate, life or death. He forced air into her lungs once. Twice. 3 times. On the 4th breath, her body jerked violently. She coughed. A harsh, wet, terrifying cough that sounded like broken glass scraping metal. Then she sucked in a deep, ragged breath on her own. Color began creeping back into her face. Marcus staggered back, shaking. "Stay with me, stay with me." Doctors burst in seconds later, shouting orders, pushing him aside. Machines beeped frantically. Oxygen was secured. Medication administered. A security guard grabbed Marcus. You weren't authorized. Wait, one doctor snapped. What happened? Marcus stammered, she couldn't breathe. The doctor examined her quickly, then looked at Marcus with stunned eyes. You opened her airway. Another added quietly, if she'd gone another minute. He didn't finish the sentence. Marcus expected to be escorted out, maybe even fired. Instead, he was told to wait. An hour later, a sharply dressed man entered the staff room. Gray suit. Steel expression. The kind of presence that made everyone sit up straighter. I'm Daniel Kessler, he said. Chief of Staff to Ms. Victoria Hale. Marcus blinked. The name meant nothing to him. She's conscious, Daniel continued. And she wants to see you. Marcus's stomach dropped. People like him didn't get summoned by billionaires. Inside the suite, the atmosphere had changed. Soft lighting. Monitors humming steadily. And on the bed, the woman looked fragile, human, not powerful. Her eyes found him immediately. You're the janitor, she said, her voice hoarse but steady. Marcus nodded awkwardly. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry if I... Sorry, she interrupted. You saved my life. Tears gathered in her eyes, surprising everyone in the room. I went into anaphylactic shock, she explained weakly. Severe reaction. My throat closed. The nurse had stepped out for medication. She paused. If you hadn't acted. Her hand trembled. Marcus didn't know where to look. Anyone would have done it. Daniel coughed softly. Security footage shows several staff passed the room. No one entered. The silence that followed felt heavy. Victoria studied him. What's your name? Marcus Reed. Do you have family, Marcus? My daughter. Lily. She's 4. A faint smile touched her lips. You must be a very brave man to raise a child alone. I don't feel brave, he admitted. Just responsible. Something shifted in her expression, recognition, maybe even admiration. Daniel, she said, I want Marcus taken care of. Marcus panicked. No, ma'am, I don't need anything. She raised a hand. You gave me something priceless. Let me decide what you need. Over the next week, Marcus's life began to tilt in ways he couldn't understand. First, the hospital informed him he was being transferred, not fired, to a special assignment. Then Lily's daycare called to say her outstanding fees had been mysteriously paid. Next, Marcus received a letter stating his late rent balance had been cleared. He thought it was a mistake. Until a black car arrived outside his apartment building. Daniel stepped out. Miss Hale would like to see you again. Marcus hesitated. Why? Daniel's expression softened slightly. Because she trusts you. At Victoria's penthouse, Marcus felt like he had stepped into another universe. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Art worth more than his entire life hung casually on walls. But Victoria herself wore simple clothes and no makeup. She looked tired, lonely. I asked you here because I need something money can't buy, she said. Marcus frowned. What is it? She took a long breath. Honesty. Normalcy. Someone who doesn't want anything from me. He didn't know what to say. She continued, when I couldn't breathe, everyone with power, education, and wealth failed me. The only person who didn't hesitate was the man cleaning the floor. Her voice cracked. Do you know how terrifying it is to realize your life depends on strangers who might walk past you? Marcus thought of Elena collapsing in their kitchen, neighbors unaware. Yes, he said quietly. I do. From that moment on, something unexpected grew between them. Not romance at first, something deeper. Respect. Understanding. Two people from opposite worlds who both knew what it meant to lose everything. Victoria began funding community programs in Marcus's neighborhood. She insisted he oversee them. "You know what people actually need," she said. "Not what reports claim they need." Marcus protested constantly. "I'm not qualified." "You're compassionate," she replied. "That's rarer." Months passed. Lily adored Miss Victoria, who read her bedtime stories in exaggerated voices and let her draw on expensive stationery. One evening, as Marcus watched Lily fall asleep curled against Victoria's side, he realized something startling. For the first time since Elena died, the apartment felt full. Victoria looked up at him, eyes soft. "She makes everything brighter." "She does," he said. A long silence settled between them, not awkward, but fragile. "You know," she said slowly, "I've negotiated billion-dollar deals without fear. But this scares me." "What does?" "Caring about people who could leave." Marcus swallowed hard. "It scares me too." She smiled through tears. "Good. Then I'm not alone." The tabloids eventually discovered their connection. Headlines screamed about the janitor who kissed a billionaire. Commentators speculated, mocked, romanticized. Marcus hated it. Victoria ignored it. "Let them talk," she said calmly. "They weren't there when I was dying." 1 year after that night in the hospital, Victoria hosted a small event not for investors, but for community leaders, teachers, single parents, and hospital staff. She took the stage and surprised everyone by calling Marcus up beside her. "This man reminded me that human worth is not measured by wealth, status, or titles," she said. "It's measured by what you do when someone else can't breathe." She turned to him. "You didn't just save my life, Marcus. You changed it." He shook his head, overwhelmed. "You changed mine too." Lily ran onto the stage unexpectedly and hugged both of them, making the audience laugh and cry at the same time. Victoria whispered to Marcus, "She's the real hero." He smiled. "Always has been." So what happened to the single dad janitor who kissed AB? Wait, before you scroll away, imagine this for 1 second. The person everyone ignores, the man cleaning the floors, becomes the only reason the most powerful woman in the city is still alive. And what she does for him afterward shocks even the people who thought they knew her. Read hard if you believe ordinary people can do extraordinary things. Like this video and subscribe, because stories like this prove heroes don't wear suits, they wear work uniforms. Ethan Cole's hands always smelled faintly of bleach, no matter how hard he scrubbed them. At 39, he worked the overnight shift as a janitor in the towering glass headquarters of Hale & Crown, a multinational empire worth more than some countries. By sunrise, he would hurry across town to wake his 7-year-old son, Noah, make breakfast, walk him to school, sleep for a few hours, then start all over again. Exhaustion had become his natural state. 3 years earlier, his wife Marissa had left, unable to handle the endless financial strain after Noah's congenital heart condition drained their savings. She didn't leave angrily. She left quietly, one suitcase, a tearful goodbye, and a note saying she couldn't watch her son suffer anymore. Ethan never blamed her. But he never forgave the silence either. Noah was his entire world now, a thin, pale boy with a brave smile and a backpack covered in dinosaur patches. Every hospital visit, every bill, every sleepless night. Ethan carried it alone. "Daddy," Noah asked once, "are we poor?" Ethan forced a smile. "No. We're just in between rich and super rich." Noah considered that. "So, medium rich?" "Exactly." Noah grinned. "Cool." That grin was the reason Ethan kept going when his body begged him to stop. One night, a violent thunderstorm rolled across the city, rattling the skyscraper windows. Most employees had gone home hours earlier, leaving only security, a few executives working late, and Ethan pushing his cleaning cart through endless marble corridors. On the top executive floor, a place he was rarely assigned, the lights were still on in the corner office. He recognized the name on the door, Alexandra Hale. Founder. CEO. Billionaire. To Ethan, she was just a name on plaques and magazine covers. He knocked softly before entering. Janitorial service. No response. He stepped inside cautiously. The office was enormous, glass walls overlooking lightning-lit clouds, minimalist furniture, a desk that probably cost more than his car. And behind it, Alexandra Hale was on the floor. At first he thought she had dropped something. Then he saw the way her body was jerking. Her heels lay discarded nearby. One hand clawed at her throat. Her face was flushed, eyes wide with terror. She was trying to breathe and failing. Ethan's heart slammed into his ribs. "Ma'am?" She couldn't answer. Only a horrible wheezing sound escaped her. He fumbled for his phone to call emergency services, but panic scrambled his fingers. The signal flickered, storm interference. "Stay with me," he said, though she probably couldn't hear him. He remembered Noah's cardiologist teaching parents CPR basics. He had practiced on plastic mannequins, praying he'd never need it. But this wasn't a mannequin. This was a real person dying in front of him. Her breaths grew weaker. Her lips tinged blue. Without thinking anymore, Ethan tilted her head back and sealed his mouth over hers, forcing air into her lungs. Once. Twice. Her chest barely rose. "Come on," he whispered desperately. "Come on, breathe." On the third breath, her body convulsed violently. She coughed a harsh, tearing sound, then sucked in a thin, shaky breath. Air. Real air. She collapsed against him, trembling uncontrollably. Security burst in moments later, alerted by motion sensors and the commotion. Medics followed, taking over with practiced efficiency. As they lifted her onto a stretcher, Alexandra's hand shot out and grabbed Ethan's sleeve with surprising strength. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Don't leave." Hours later, Ethan sat in a sterile waiting room, convinced he was about to be fired or arrested for touching the CEO. Instead, a doctor approached him with a stunned expression. "You saved her life," she said simply. He blinked. "I just helped her breathe." She had a severe panic-induced airway spasm, the doctor explained. Without oxygen, she would have lost consciousness within minutes. Ethan didn't feel heroic. He felt nauseous. "I have to pick up my son from school in the morning," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. The next day, he reported to work expecting reprimand. Instead, human resources escorted him to a private conference room. Inside sat Alexandra Hale. Alive. Pale, but composed. Wearing simple clothes instead of the intimidating power suits from magazines. She studied him like he was the mystery. "You didn't hesitate," she said. Ethan shrugged awkwardly. "You needed help. Most people freeze." He looked at the floor. "My son has heart problems. I've had to learn stuff." Something softened in her eyes. "What's his name?" "Noah." "Does he have insurance?" Ethan stiffened immediately. "We manage." She nodded slowly, as if filing that reaction away. "Mr. Cole, I built my entire life on control," she said quietly. "Schedules. Security. Strategy. Last night I learned none of that matters when you can't breathe." Silence filled the room. "You didn't see a billionaire," she continued. "You saw a person." He finally met her gaze. "You were scared." Her composure cracked for just a second. "Yes." Over the following weeks, strange things began happening. Ethan's shift schedule changed to accommodate Noah's school hours. A social worker contacted him about a new pediatric assistance program that would cover Noah's treatments. An anonymous donor paid off a mountain of medical debt. Ethan suspected the truth, but had no proof. Until Alexandra invited him to her office again. "Noah's surgery is scheduled for next month," she said. His throat tightened. You did that?" I made a phone call, she replied. You did the hard part raising him alone. He didn't know whether to feel grateful or uncomfortable. Why? She hesitated, a rare thing for someone known for decisive action. Because you reminded me what courage looks like, she said softly. Not boardroom courage. Real courage. After Noah's successful surgery, Ethan brought him to meet her. Noah, small and shy, clutched his father's hand until Alexandra knelt down to his level. I hear you like dinosaurs, she said. His eyes widened. How did you know? I have sources, she whispered conspiratorially, producing a small T-Rex figurine from her pocket. Noah gasped like she had performed magic. From that moment on, something unexpected blossomed between them, not romance, not charity, but connection. Alexandra began visiting their modest apartment, sitting cross-legged on the floor playing board games, laughing in a way her executives had never witnessed. For the first time in years, her penthouse felt less like a palace, and more like a cage she didn't want to return to. One evening, as Noah slept on the couch between them, she spoke quietly. Do you know what people say about me? Ethan shrugged. That you're powerful. They say I'm ruthless. Untouchable. Cold. She paused. None of them know I eat dinner alone every night. He didn't try to fix it. He just listened. Sometimes, that's the rarest gift. Months later, during a major company event, Alexandra shocked the business world by stepping away from the spotlight to announce a massive foundation for families with critically ill children. She called Ethan onto the stage. He looked terrified. This man, she said to the silent audience, saved my life with nothing but courage and compassion. He didn't ask who I was. He didn't ask what he'd get in return. He just acted. Her voice trembled slightly. And in doing so, he reminded me that the strongest people aren't the ones at the top, they're the ones holding everything together at the bottom. Noah ran onto the stage and hugged his father's leg, sending a ripple of laughter through the crowd. Alexandra knelt beside them, smiling not like a billionaire, but like someone who had finally found where she belonged. So what happened to the single dad janitor who kissed a billionaire to save her life? He didn't become her employee. He didn't become her charity case. He became her friend. Her anchor. The person who proved that humanity isn't measured by net worth. And Alexandra Hale, the woman who owned everything, finally gained something priceless. People who loved her not for what she had, but for who she was when she couldn't breathe. Red Heart. If this story warmed your heart, tap like, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more powerful stories that prove kindness can rewrite destiny. Glowing Star.